Also, der richtige
A good pack job starts already with a smart canopy pickup on the field, right after the landing.
den Wind. Das bedeutet, der Fallschirm ist hinter mir.
First of all, keep your toggles in your hands.
Noch in der Hand, die habe ich auch nicht losgelassen und die werde ich jetzt gleich wieder an den Reisern fixieren. Ich drehe,
Turn around to face your canopy and fix the toggles back on the risers.
fixiere die Steuerschlaufen. Das kann ich ganz einfach machen. In dem Fall mit den Vorsteckern. Das mache ich, damit die Steuer und die Fangleinen zusammen.
Grab all lines and step forward to the canopy. Do not drag it towards you.
Auf, bis ich am Ansatz
Lift all components up
da ist auch der Slider.
until all lines,
Jetzt fasse ich alles
Fabric,
an, was schleifen könnte. Das bedeutet, da
bridle,
Bridle am Hauptschirm befestigt ist,
Pot.
greife ich nach oben in die Hand. Nächster Schlag mit dem Pot, das heißt den Pot separat nehmen, weil das ist meistens derjenige, der immer dann am Boden schlägt.
and pilot chute is off the ground.
Nächster Schlag, bis ich den Pilot Chute auch oben in der Hand habe, alles fixiert, hängt nichts mehr runter, damit kann ich zur Halle laufen.
Go back to the packing zone and keep attention to other jumpers that might be in landing approach.
Ich komme in der Halle an und mache
Okay, I'm back in the hangar.
in umgekehrter Reihenfolge, lasse ich die Kappe fallen,
Release all stuff in reverse order.
damit ich keinen Überschlag bekomme. Öffne den Brustgurt.
Open chest strap and leg straps.
Steuerschlaufen sind noch fixiert, so wie es sein soll. Lasse jetzt hinter mir den
Slide the rig down to the ground
zum Boden, steige aus den Beinschlaufen aus und damit alles korrekt bleibt,
and drop it on the back side.
habe ich jetzt das Gurtzeug so abgelegt, packen, dass es mir nicht
Use a weight to fix the rig on the floor. We have petrol cans filled with concrete available.
oder man legt eine
You can also use a heavy sport rig or you tie the leg straps to something around.
zum Befestigen.
We start now with the brake setting.
Die Vorbremsung
Pull the steering line down until the brake setting loop comes through the ring.
so weit durch, dass das Vorbremsauge durch den Ring gekommen ist. Jetzt steckt
Plug in the upper stiff part of the toggle.
das ist fixiert durch den Ring,
Save it into the toggle keeper
Housing und unten
and pin the toggle on the riser.
manche Gurtzeuge haben
These kind of attachment can be vary and depends on the manufacturer.
einen anderen Mechanismus. In unserem Fall haben wir hier so einen Pin, der
Make sure that the overlength loop is pointing to inside
und die
and steering line is reaching down from canopy outside of the risers.
normale Verlauf
This is the natural pathway and avoids to get hand trapped in the loop while grabbing the toggles after opening.
quasi in diesem Fall
We have to stow the overlengths on the backside of the riser.
eine Lasche angenäht.
This procedure can also vary a bit on different parachute systems.
Verstauen. Okay, das gleiche mache ich auf der anderen Seite.
The same has to be done on the other riser.
Verlauf so, dass die Vorbremsung
Overlength loop to inside. Steering line is coming from outside down from parachute.
außen kommt.
Make sure the brake setting loop is through the ring before you plug in the toggle.
Verstaue dann die Steuerschlaufe im Housing, befestige
Save the pin
mit dem Pin und die Überlänge
and stow the overlength.
hier in dieser Schlaufe verstaut.
Now we have to check a free and untwisted course. Starting at the 3 rings, over the risers, connector links, lines, and up to the canopy. For the line check, I separate the steering line between thumb and index finger. All lines of the back riser through the index finger and middle finger, and all lines of the front riser between middle and ring finger. The same on the other side. This is the 3 fingers line check.
Mit diesem 3-Finger-Griff kontrolliere ich den freien Verlauf der Fangleinen nach vorne.
Go up to the canopy and check if all is free and untwisted.
Wenn ich am Fallschirm angekommen bin und sehe, es gibt keine Verdrehung. Also alles richtig. Okay. Nun kann ich alle Fangleinen wieder zu
If you are sure all is fine, bring all lines back in one hand and hook it over your preferred shoulder.
Dieses Fangleinenbündel über die rechte Schulter.
Please remember that the harness is lying with the backside on the ground, and imagine that the jumper in it would be located on the belly. That means the canopy in this position should point all 9 cells to you. Think about if this is not fully clear to you. One cell contains 2 chambers, and I start counting the cells from right to left and bring all 9 cells on my left knee.
Jetzt kommt die zweite Zelle mit 2 Kammern. 2, Nummer 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alle 9 Zellen vorhanden. Kann ich ausschütteln. Und jetzt klemme ich mir diese 9
Cover
Zellen.
all 9 cells between your knees.
Kann da nichts mehr verrutschen. So, jetzt haben wir hier den
Now
Slider.
take care about the slider.
Ist noch vom Sprung noch kollabiert. Das heißt, wir entspannen.
The slider has been collapsed after opening by the jumper to get a better canopy glide.
Ja, das heißt, ich ziehe ihn wieder groß.
If you jump a collapsible slider, you have to reopen it at this point latest. Be aware this is a very important action. If you forget that, it will cause a very hard opening, probably with serious injury or even death by neck breaking. After this is done, I put the slider on my shoulder to gain more visibility and overview into the canopy. At that point, it becomes very hard to me to explain how to sort out all the lines and fabric, as well as it is for you to understand what I'm doing here. Therefore, we transfer this situation into a more clear environment and we come back to here on a later stage. What you see here is the same what is hanging over our shoulder, but just in a wide open spreaded version. Our goal is to bring the canopy and a center point together, across and lengthwise, that at the end all the fabric is pointing outside and all the lines are centered. Remember, all cell inlets are facing to you. 9 cell inlets are attached by 10 lines. They are called A lines. When we go from the leading edge of the canopy in tail direction, we find 10 B lines, followed by 10 C lines and 10 D lines. And at the tail, the steering lines with their branch or intersection lines. Here you see the canopy in side view, folded just lengthwise, collected in 5 line bunches. If we catch some fabric between lines, it will probably get burn marks during the opening. In the next step, we have to center the canopy crosswise. And remember, At the end, all the fabric is pointing outside and all the lines are in the middle. We look between A and B lines and divide the canopy in the middle. 5 lines to the left, 5 lines to the right. Bring the fabric between to the same side. Do the same between B and C lines and C and D lines. Always 5 lines to left and 5 lines to right.
Steuerschwanz bleibt erstmal unberücksichtigt dabei. Das heißt, wir gucken jetzt nur mal auf A, B, C und D.
That is exactly the same what we do on the normal pack job while the canopy is hanging over your shoulder. But there we fold across and lengthwise at the same time. The stabilizers on both sides of the canopy make it a bit harder to have a deep look all the time. But they help us as a marker where to go into the canopy to collect the fabric of the cells into the stabilizer fold. It will take some time and training to gain fully understanding about all details, but it is essential for a good and safe pack job.
Und zum Schluss, der Slider, den lege ich dann über Kreuz da rein.
Before we bring the tail up to get it sorted as well, we have to set the slider symmetrically top down into the pack job. Now we go back to our normal over-the-shoulder pack job to copy in all what we have learned. 9 cells are between your knees. There you find 10 A lines in front of you. We start at left. Find 3 stabilizer folds between A and B, B and C, C and D. Go into the first stabilizer fold and find 5 A lines and 5 B lines. And bring the fabric between to the outside. You see, it's much more difficult to find it compared to a hanging upside down from the roof canopy. But 300,000 jumps per year just in Germany are a good proof that it is possible to learn packing. Stabilizer fold number 1 is done. Go to the next and grab the 5 B lines again and find 5 C lines. Bring the fabric between to the outside. It is always the same.
Zwischen A und B-Leine, den Stoff habe ich gerade rausgeführt nach außen und jetzt bin ich zwischen B- und C-Leinen und führe den Stoff nach außen. Hier sind wir im dritten Stabilisator.
Stabilizer fold number 3.
Genauso sein.
Go deep down.
Dass man es besser sehen kann. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Leinen und die entsprechenden Stoffbahnen nach außen gefaltet.
Left side is done. We go to the right hand side to stabilizer fold number 1.
2, 3, 4, 5. Und
Stabilizer 2.
Das ist, glaube ich, beim Packen am Anfang das Schwierigste, das zu erkennen.
And stabilizer 3.
So, jetzt haben wir auch die rechte Seite sortiert. Das heißt,
I'm going to check again if all is on the right place.
Hier sind die zweiten 5, die gehört dazu. Okay.
Down here you see the tail of the canopy.
Sortiert habe, hole ich mit dem Slider wieder ran.
Remember, next step is to sort in the slider. Symmetrically, centered, decollapsed and crosswise.
4 Fangleinbündel und auch 4 Grommets, die nun
Now I bring the tail up.
die Mittelzelle nach oben.
The center of the tail is always marked by the canopy warning label. Here you can find all the relevant parameters of the canopy. Bring the stitching, respectively the double seam, to the line bunch and wrap around the entire pack job with the center cell. Release the cells from the knees. check the back side and cover it all. Grab both sides of the center cell with one hand. Keep the hand as down as possible and roll the fabric 2 or 3 times to get it smoothly connected. Have a look to the top hand. I changed the position a bit to be able to roll here as well. The opening becomes smoother as closer the roll is. But keep attention. If you roll too much, you bring the lines from inside the pack job out of position and you risk a line over. Now bring the mummy down to the ground with always straight lines and in a gently way. If the rig has a kill line to collapse the pilot chute after opening, then it is time to stretch it out again. If you are not sure about, follow this test if your pilot chute is catching air. You see, here it's not. Hence, you have to stretch the kill line out. First, get the bridle twist free. Grab the handle of the pilot chute. Step 1 foot on the pot. Keep the bridle on tension and pull the pilot chute handle out. Test it again and check out if the pilot chute is catching air now. You also have to find a shrink part of the bridle inside the pot. Pot is the abbreviation for parachute opening device, or also called D-bag or development bag. Okay, check was positive. And we can go now for the interesting part, how to bring the mummy into the pot. There are a couple of possibilities to create a parachute package with the same size of the pot. I prefer to start with the first fold at the bases. Cover it with your knees. Bring all the air out. And keep the double seam of the center cell always in the middle. Use your forearm to bring the air out. And work it smaller and smaller with the other hand. Change to the other side. Keep all covered. Don't give the chute any chance to breathe in again. Shape the package a little bit smaller as the pot is. I have worked together the fabric of the center cell underneath and cover it with one hand to be ready for the second fold. Bend it over your knees and keep everything tight. Keep an eye on it, that the lines are always on tension. I cover the package again by one knee from top and 1 foot sidewise. The other side is controlled by one hand. It is important that you grab the whole package and not just a layer. The last hand is getting the pot ready. The cover shell with the grommets is located on the ground. Bring the right hand side of the pot under the package and insert it together with the holding hand. Don't let it go before this side of the package is safe. Take over that part with your knee and do the same on the other side. Grab the whole package and bring all together into the pot. Check again if the double seam of the center cell and the label is still in the middle. Decide if your outcome looks good enough to continue. This pot provides 2 line stows and 2 grommets to close the bag. Sometimes you find 3 or 4, no matter what, go from inside to outside. In this case, it doesn't make any difference on which side we start. Always work the grommets to the line stow and not vice versa. Check if still all lines are stretched on tension and bring the first sling to the stow. Not more than 3 fingers wide. Don't wrap the stow twice when a grommet is involved. If it seems to loose, use your brain and replace the rubber. The same at the second stow. Bring the grommet to the stow. 3 fingers wide. Be aware that all remaining stows have no grommets, and we have to check the stow tension if a double wrap is needed now. It seems to loose. And I decide to wrap 2 times but make the slack a bit shorter. All that varies a bit on line types and stow types. If the stow is too tight, it could stuck. If it is too loose, it could open unintentionally and preliminary. Move slowly to the container and use the line stows on both sides of the pot. If you prefer to pull the harness towards you, use an underlayer as a protection pad and fix the rig on it to avoid dirt and damage. The last line stow is centered on this type of pot. That keeps the pot more stabilized during the opening process. Save around 1 meter line slack after the last stow. We need to give the pot initial speed in the opening. We are going to move the pot into the container in a straight way without turning. Move out the weight. Open the flaps of the main container. Arrange the risers on both sides, starting at the 3 rings. Point the toggles in direction of the reserve container. Close the shoulder cover. Here it has magnetic lockers. The same on the other side. Öffne hier das Reisercover, lege es rein, die Steuerschlaufe zeigt wieder Richtung Reservecontainer. Okay, kann hier wieder schließen. So, und jetzt verstaue ich noch, damit es hübsch wird. Sort the line slack on top of the main container.
Bei der Pot-Auslösung. So. Okay. Und stelle den Pot.
Drop the pot into the container. Some manufacturers recommend a stand-up position.
Jeder Hersteller
Sometimes you will be advised to turn the pot 90 degrees.
stehen und ziehen den Container
Check out manual which ways of dropping in are recommended.
nach hinten rein. Das machen wir jetzt in dem Fall.
We are going to close the container flaps.
Containerklappen zu
The right order depends on the type and should be checked in the manual as well.
Flugzeug.
This is the Firebird rig and you find the closing loop on flap number 1.
Dabei.
Check the quality of the loop on every pack job before you continue. If you are in doubt about, the answer is given and the loop has to be renewed.
Band.
Insert your pull-up cord.
Hier, da sehe ich,
Flap number 2 is on the top.
das ist die Klappe 2.
Sometimes you even find a number print as a reminder on each flap. Check the manual also where the bridle should go out of the container. Firebird provides two possibilities, right top or right bottom. I use right top. Go with the pull-up cord to flap 2. Pull the closing loop through the grommet.
Der Loop zu sehen ist. Da muss ich jetzt den Pin noch nicht reinstecken, sondern ich will ja noch weitere 2 Klappen schließen. Fixiere
I block it as long as I have managed to pull flap number 3. Bridle is on right top.
So. Klappe 3 ist auch da. Bridle guckt, wie ich gerade schon gesagt habe, rechts oben raus.
Use a knee block again to catch flap 4.
Und kommt die Klappe 4.
The loop becomes visible.
Ist angekommen. Nun kann ich den Pin so stecken, dass er lächelt.
Lock it now by the pin located on the bridle. It is common to arrange a smiling pin when you come from top.
Jetzt muss das Backband wieder raus.
The pull-up cord has to be released, but we have to treat the closing loop with care.
Dann würde,
Don't pull it out right away.
weil er dabei
The loop would be get burned and damaged.
nicht belastet wird,
Bring the cord under the pin to preserve the loop.
unter den Pin. Und dadurch fungiert jetzt der Pin als Schutz für den Loop. Und jetzt ziehe ich schön
And pull it out smoothly.
ohne dass Hitzeentwicklung passiert. Das Backband raus.
Create 2 to 3 centimeters overlengths into the bridle on the way into the container to make sure the pin can be pulled freely out. If you don't do, the pin could be blocked on the way out.
An der Hilfschen Verbindungsleine das ganze Gurtzeug anheben und der Pin kommt nicht, weil er hier mit der Bridle blockiert wird. Deswegen brauchen wir unbedingt an dieser Stelle eine kleine Überlänge. Ich zeige das mal. Ungefähr so. Und jetzt würde
That is how it should look like.
die Bridle hier blockieren könnte. Und schon gehen die Klappen auf.
I stow the bridle under flap 3 on its way to the pilot chute.
Unter den Klappen. So. Hier sieht man auch noch mal so
By the way, here you can double check the colored marker of the kill line in this little window. But from my perspective, don't trust it. Better you have already checked with the air in check before.
habe. Und jetzt kann hier schon die Klappe zu. Okay. Sind wir schon fast fertig.
Follow the path to the BOC.
Wir noch
BOC means bottom of container, and it's a stretch pocket underneath to put in the pilot chute.
zum BOC, Bottom of Container, das ist diese Spanntex-Tasche hier unten, wo gleich der Pilot Chute drin verstaut wird. So. Okay.
Turn all twists out of the bridle.
Auch jetzt gibt es wieder unzählige
The pilot chute must be prepared to get it into the pocket. There are many ways to do so. I show you one of them.
Umso besser bekomme ich es in die Tasche rein. Das heißt also, ich mache mal eine Variante von vielen. Ich habe jetzt einmal umgeschlagen und lege jetzt schon bewusst den Pilot Chute so weit entfernt von der Tasche, dass das die Taschenlänge ist.
Check the length of the BOC and create a bridle package inside your pilot chute with the same length.
Entfernt jetzt diese Kante hin. Wir werden gleich sehen, warum. Jetzt kann ich an dieser Stelle die Bridle als Ziehharmonika zusammenbauen.
The bridle package will be the core.
Die wird dann mein Kern vom Hilfsschirm. So.
Also use this length to prepare the package away from the pocket entry.
Halte fest. Jetzt klappe ich das. Wie ich auch immer jetzt klappe, ist egal. Hauptsache zum Schluss wird es ein schönes Paket. So, jetzt sieht man schon, was es werden soll.
Reveal the handle.
Mein Griff. Manchmal ist es eine Plastikrolle, manchmal ist es ein Hacky-Sack. In dem Fall ist es ein Freefly-Händel.
Roll it tight.
Und jetzt rolle ich
However you choose your folds, it is good as long as you end up with something like this.
ein schönes Paket, was ich in die Tasche reinstecken kann. Ich drehe
Turn the last twists out
diese Verdrehung raus.
and push the package into the pocket.
Ganze in die Tasche.
Here it is a free-fly handle, but it might be a hacky sack or a plastic roll as well. I pack this rig for belly jumps and I do not activate the additional handle flap.
Springen wollen.
For free-fly jumps, this handle has to be packed 180 degrees turned to get the handle flap covered against preliminary slip due to higher fall rates.
So, letzter Check.
We go for the final check. 3 rings, reserve static line,
Reisercover sind zu.
straps, flaps and covers,
Machen.
ready for rock and roll.
Okay. Gut.
Now we go for a deep dive into the most common packing mistakes at the following bonus material.
Was oft passiert, ich hatte den jetzt auf, lasse den hinten
I have reached the packing area and drop down my rig in this way. I step out and have to arrange the rig for the pack job.
nehme und lege den.
But I have turned it into the wrong direction and have created a backflip.
Deswegen hatte Steffi,
Replay the video and check again if it's not fully clear to you.
wenn ich das jetzt hier hinlege, zack,
We are going for the 3 fingers line check if we find the twist.
dann habe ich hier ein Salto drin.
But remember, you might find it if you start the check at the 3 rings and not at the toggles.
Und zwar
Okay, what will happen if we don't see it and repack the parachute with a backflip?
hier drin ist.
Probably not much. The risers and the toggle area will look weird and twisted under Canopy, but if the Canopy control check is positive, you can go for landing with it.
Damit muss ich dafür ein Cutaway machen oder nicht? Nehmen, so, wie er das
Let's see how it looks at the 3 fingers line check.
dann sieht das so aus. Und dann weiß ich, oh, das ist jetzt nicht das, was sein soll. Jetzt kann ich aber
I have created the backflip at the rig, but can fix it at the Canopy as well
bei ihm durch, Patrick.
by recovering with a front flip.
So, jetzt ist alles wieder schön.
Let's have a look what can be done wrong at the brake setting.
Alle gelernt, wie das jetzt funktioniert. Wir sollen
I bring the steering line down,
das Vorbremsauge durch den Ring ziehen,
the brake setting loops through the ring,
stecken,
counter it with a toggle,
den Togglekeeper hier damit sichern.
overlings inside, steering line is coming from top out.
Last auf dem Ring.
The ring on the riser is covering the whole pull force of the canopy opening.
Jetzt aber den Fehler machen.
If I miss the ring and counter the brake setting loop before I have passed the ring, it is really hard to see. The ring is bypassed and the toggle keeper probably will rip off during opening. This brake setting is out while the other side may still work and you start spinning down under canopy. We call it toggle fire. This stupid mistake can cause in a cutaway and reserve procedure with a main loss as a worst case scenario. Remember the plan to reattach the toggles right after landing out of your hands straight to the risers. If you release them, the steering lines start collecting twists jump by jump. I'm going to simulate what happens.
Und wenn ihr die loslasst, dann kommen da mal ganz schnell hier so ein paar Umdrehungen rein. Jetzt hatte die Alina gefragt, was ist denn da schlimm dran?
A thumb rule says more than 10 turns become critical. It can cause an attention knot or even line dump, especially during the deployment.
Na, und wenn das in der Öffnung passiert, dann haben wir einen Knoten, dann kommt der Slider nicht runter und dann ist es ein Cutaway. Oder das, genau.
Check that before you start packing. If you see it at the 3 fingers line check, you have to reopen the brake setting to get it fixed. To clear the line, we always start at the attachment point of the steering branch lines. Bring the twists down through the ring to the toggle.
Gerade wenn die Leine unter Spannung steht und hat so viele Umdrehungen.
A lot of line turns for a long time under tension creates a memory effect, and it becomes hard to get them out again. Now we are talking about a 3-ring issue. It could happen while dropping down the rig. The smaller 2 rings on the riser flip over into the big ring and get stuck. It occurs more on tandem rigs, and I never saw it on sport rigs so far, but you should be aware about the possibility. Actually, it's easy to see, but it happens a lot of times the jumpers didn't become aware until the opening sequence. It is a serious problem. One scenario is the 3-ring loop will break and initiates a cutaway on this side and you start spiraling down on one riser. But just if you are lucky enough that the open riser had no reserve static line, which would pull the reserve canopy into the main in one shot. A second scenario is the 3-ring loop doesn't break, but the opening shock will damage the whole system for sure that it won't be possible anymore to pull the cutaway, but this damaged connect could break every single second by its own. The only chance you have is to land it. This 3-ring flip over is an ugly mistake. Check your 3 rings all the time and watch out for bad looking 3 rings in your neighborhood. Probably you have spent a lot of effort into sorting out all the lines and fabric of your parachute to get it ready for the pot. The effort can be destroyed in 1 second by dropping it like this. So, don't do. Bring it down like a sleeping baby. It is crucial to have all lines centered and no fabric between. But when I bring the center cell up to wrap it around, I work against this rule. The steering lines are the longest lines and I have to be very sensitive to keep this line centered. Actually, it's not completely possible, but try your best to be aware about that point.
Aber ich würde es noch weiter verschlimmern, wenn ich diese Mumie nehme.
See what happens with the lines when I pull too much or too high.
Guckt mal hier, dann habe ich diese Line, die ihr da seht, einmal über den gesamten Schirm gezogen. Und das ist so ein typischer Fall für Fangleinenüberwurf. Oder auch wenn ich gar nicht so hoch ziehe, sondern ich bleibe hier unten. Aber jetzt drehe ich
The same happens when I roll too much.
Wenn ich jetzt denke mir, sicher ist sicher,
Actually, I mess it up.
machen wir mal.
And it is very likely I have created a line over or even a streamer.
Jetzt ist alles auf links gezogen.
And it is high stress for the material anyway.
Drehen, ne?
Have a look what happens when you loop the lines too big.
Schlag, der ist jetzt vielleicht auch so.
One or more lines from the next stow
Container,
could fall into the first stow and block them from opening. It could create a backlog.
wenn dann blockiert das Ganze, dann müsste ich es eventuell zweimal drum machen. Oder abmachen und neues nehmen.
Check the rubber tension around the lines.
Hier bei diesen Gummis,
If a grommet is involved, a single wrap 3 fingers wide stow should be enough most of the time. If it seems to loose, use your brain and replace the rubber.
wir sind wieder beim Gesetz.
Remember that all stows without using grommets should be double wrapped if it seems to loose.
Keine Öse mehr. Die
Wrap 2 times but 2 fingers wide.
hier muss ich
That varies a bit on line types and stow types.
Wie würde euch das gefallen?
If the stow is too tight, it could stuck.
Aus dem Container raus.
But if it's too loose, the line stows are falling apart at the moment when the pot gets lifted out of the container. If you are in doubt, simulate the opening process on the ground by pulling the bridle and see how much pull force is needed and how good it works.
Es sind gar nicht mehr ganz 3 Finger, es sind noch 2 Finger. Das ist wahrscheinlich
It could be critical when you jam some lines between the two wraps.
könnte es blockieren
Higher pull force is needed to get it out.
sein. Am besten kann man das machen, wenn ich jetzt
It is helpful to support the wrap by your thumb.
habe ich den Daumen hier, da halte ich mir das Ding mit drauf.
The overall conclusion is read the manual and take over responsibility for your pack job.